Hello, aspirants. Welcome to Environment by UPSC Experts. This is class 1 of the course. Before going into the classes, I will briefly discuss what is there in this course. Then we will proceed to the class. See, if we see, these are the previous year questions asked from environment subject. Right? See, in 2015, 17 questions, 20 questions, 15 questions, 11 questions, 20, 18, 22, 18, 19, 17. So if we see in past 6 years, at least 17 questions are asked from environment. And this trend is going to continue because the importance of the subject. See, we have destroyed environment enough that we are now focusing on environment, and since our efforts are on protection of environment, so UPSC is going to focus on environment. And second thing is the Indian Forest Service prelims paper, right? Same prelims for Forest Service also. And in keeping in mind of the Forest Service, there are going to be 18 to 20 questions from the environment in prelims exam, right? So now let's see what is there in the course, right? See here, this is a course I will be teaching you through the class notes, right? So in this course, first you need to buy the book. Link to the book is given in the description. You can click on the link and you can buy the book, right? And this is handwritten book of 520 pages, right? See, this is 520 pages, and you better get buy the book and take a printout of it, right? You can get it print out for 250 rupees, right? And this book will be your one stop solution for environment. This handwritten book, see, once you follow this book, there is no need to read Shankar IAS, there is no need to read PMF IAS, or there is no need to read any other book, right? So it is made in keeping in view that it has to act as a one stop solution for your environment subject, right? And don't think, see, this 520 pages are handwritten, right? These are actually 200 pages equivalent, right? And written in a very simple language, it is very easy to read, right? And in this book, all the PYQs of past 10 years are covered. And in class also, in class, basically what I would be doing is I will be explaining everything written in the book, right? I will be explaining. And every PYQ of the topic of past 10 years is covered in the book, and in class also I will be discussing all these PYQs, right? Then after this core content, right, there will be PT 365 of this year, right? This year's PT 365, each and every topic will be extensively covered in this course, right? And not only PT 365 of this year, but PT 365s of past 10 years. See, what is happening is, see, current affairs is not just 1 year's PT 365, right? UPSC is asking 1.5 year, 2 years, 3 years ka important current affairs, right? So in PT 365, say from 2016 to 2023 PT 365 also, I will be picking up some 5 to 6 topics which are not covered in these things but covered in these PT 365s, and I will be discussing them in the class, right? And after that, what I will be doing is some 50 to 100 MCQs जो टॉपिक्स इधर कवर नहीं है, इन सब एरियाज में कवर नहीं है, टेस्ट सीरीज से आई विल बी पिकिंग अप क्वेश्चंस which are important, relevant to the UPSC, right? But not covered in any of these sources. I will be picking and I will be discussing. So this will be a very comprehensive course. The idea is that nothing misses from our horizon, right? That is the course, right? Once you follow this course, there is no need for you to do anything else for the environment. That I can assure you, right? Now, what is the goal? See, goal is to get 10 to 12 questions. अगर 18 questions आया है prelims में, if we are taking 18 as an average, the goal is to get 10 to 12 questions directly from the course, right? or we'll do options elimination. See, this is the minimum we are targeting, right? If we get more than 12, 13, 14 questions, that would be fine, right? And it is unwise कि 18 के 18 हमारे कोर्स से आएंगे, वो नहीं आने वाला, right? The nature, the type of questions UPSC is asking, right? It is picking up questions from anywhere. So we can't assure you of all the questions. If we can get 10 questions also, that would be a very big achievement, right? So this is the final goal. And then how to use this course? See, this is what I tell students to do, right? To use this course. See, say there are like say some 20 classes, right? So watch all the classes of the course in 6 to 7 days, right? In 6 to 7 days, try to watch, like say, give 1 week for your environment subject, right? Watch all the classes, say watch 3 classes a day, right? So watch a class, right? Say first class you are watching, right? Soon after the class, take 30 minutes and read the class notes. ठीक है, क्लास में मैं क्लास नोट्स ही यूज करके आपको सब कुछ पढ़ाऊंगा, राइट? देन टेक 30 minutes एंड रिवाइज व्हाट इज बीइंग टॉट इन द क्लास. आपको क्लास नोट्स आपके पास होगा, राइट? देन रीड, वॉच द नेक्स्ट क्लास, second class, then again 30 minutes, 40 minutes, right? Read the class notes. Then third class, read the class notes for 30 minutes. So like that, in 6 to 7 days, try to watch all the classes. And after you have done all the classes, 6 to 7 days, sometimes you can take 8 days also. After you have done all the classes, then क्लास नोट्स को एक बार 2 दिन 3 दिन में रिवाइज करो, right? Revise. And after revising the class notes, give environment mock test. Pick up any coaching institute's mock test, right? Sectional mock test of environment. Say Vision IAS, Insights, Next IAS, Wajiram, any coaching institutes, environment mock test, and attempt the questions, right? You will realize what all things we have covered in the course. And then एक बार environment, they see in 6 to 7 or 10 days you have covered environment, that is like say 20 questions weightage you have covered. Then उसके बाद क्या करना है, right? Every month 2 to 3 days for environment, right? Revise the, keep on revising our class notes, right? जो भी क्लास में डिस्कस किया, क्लास नोट्स जो भी है उसको आप रिवीजन करते जाओ. द आइडिया इज प्रीलिम्स में एक हफ्ते से पहले भी you need to revise these class notes in 2 days, right? Right? So class notes is handwritten notes, you can easily revise it. So entire environment you will be doing in 2 to 3 days में before prelims. 1 week before prelims you will be doing environment. So with that your environment will be completely done, right? So that is the goal of this course. You will enjoy the course. There are many videos I have incorporated in the classes, right? So that you will remember things in the class. So let's go to class notes and we will start with the first class. See, this is the class notes. See, this is of 520 pages, and 520 pages of handwritten book is equal to 200 pages of the printed notes. You need to keep in this mind. This is equivalent to one monthly magazine of Vision IAS, and everything of environment is covered along with PYQs. So let's start with the first thing. See, this is environment. First, let's understand what is environment means. See, the subject is environment and ecology, right? So first we understand the terms, right? The French preposition on means around. Therefore, the word environment means that which surrounds. That which surrounds is environment. So now let's see. Definition is environment can be defined as sum total of all living and non-living components that surround and potentially influence an organism. See, what is environment? Say, take example of you. You are an organism, right? You are an organism. Environment, you are living in an environment, right? So what is that environment in which you are living? that is combination of all living, and non-living components. So your environment is the combination of all the living and non-living components. So you are an individual or an organism. So your environment is, say, your parents, right? Say your friends, all the living components, or say bacteria, say virus, say plants, right? These are living components, right? And non-living components, say sunlight, right? Say the room in which you live, right? The water you drink, right? Water is non-living, right? And the temperature of the area, all these are your surroundings. So that is the environment, right? Environment is defined as sum of all living and non-living components that surround and influence an organism, right? So living components are what? Living components of an environment. See, the environment encompasses both living, that is biotic, right, and non-living, that is abiotic components, right? So biotic components can be plants, animals, man or humans, right? Decomposers, right? Decomposers are what? They say earthworms and all who rely on waste, right? Say you have thrown away apple, right? That apple is eaten by fungus or bacteria, so they are decomposers. We will be discussing that. Then there are parasites, all the biotic means they are living, right? They have life. And abiotic, see, a means no. See, if you are apolitical, right? Apolitical means you are not political. So anything before a, that means no biotic, that means no living, non-living, right? So non-living components of environment in which you are living, it can be light, that is sunlight, that is non-living, but it is in your environment. It influences your decisions. You get food because of sunlight, right? Then water, temperature, fire, gravity. Yes, gravity is also a factor. If there is no gravity on earth, right, we couldn't walk properly, right? So gravity also plays an important role. Then soil, then oxygen, then atmospheric gases like oxygen, CO2, nitrogen, all these things, and the topography of the area, all the things that combine environment. So that is the basic. Environment is what? Anything जैसे लाइन का environment है, right? That is different, right? Line, again, both living and non-living components come, right? Say bacteria ka environment also living and non-living components play, right? So that is environment of an organism or anything, right? Now let's see what is ecology, right? So subject is environment in the ecology, so let's understand what does ecology means, right? Ecology is defined as scientific study of the relationship of the living organisms with each other and with their environment. So living organisms. So ecology is what? Ecology is that subject which is scientific study of relationship between living organisms with each other. Say human, right? Humans and humans का relation, right? Living organisms with each other, or say human है तो humans, living organisms like other animals, उनका relationship, right? And with their environment too, with their environment in which they are living, right? So that is ecology, right? So basically ecology is like what? See, atoms make molecules, and molecules make cells make tissues make organs, and organs make organisms. So in ecology we will start with organisms. See, defined as scientific study of relationship of the living organisms with each other. So living organisms के बारे में जब बात करेंगे, so that is ecology. See here, see these things, cells, tissues and organs, this we study in biology, right? And atoms and molecules we study in chemistry, physics, etc., right? So here ecology we focus on organisms, right? See, organisms are, say, we are humans are organisms, right? Say virus is an organism, bacteria is an organism, say lion is an organism, right? Ek individual organism, right? So that is, yeah. And if we combine organisms, that makes populations is like human, right? Or line ka population, right? That is combination of lines. Organism is one human, right? And population is the entire population or combination of organisms is population. And populations becomes communities, right? Communities is what? Communities is where different populations are living together. Say communities is what? See, humans are also living, right? Lions are also living, right? Or say monkeys are also living. So this is communities, right? Where different populations are living together, right? Then comes ecosystems. Ecosystems is, say, in the area where, which includes both non-living and living, right? Then biome, right? Biome is bigger ecosystem, right? We will be discussing all these things. Then biosphere, right? Then earth, solar system, galaxy, universe. So in ecology or in this subject, we will be dealing with these aspects, right? So we will be dealing with organisms, populations, communities, ecosystems, biomes, biospheres, right? So that is ecology. Ecology will be dealing with living organisms and the relations with each other and with their environment. That is ecology, right? Basic things we need to start. Right now, let's understand what does ecosystem means, right? What does ecosystem means? So ecosystem is the structural and functional unit of biosphere. Structural and functional unit of biosphere, right? See, we'll be discussing biosphere also. See, let's understand ecosystem in a crude manner. See, let's say a pond is an ecosystem, right? A river is an ecosystem, right? Or say you are living in an old Rajendra Nagar, right? You are living in an old Rajendra Nagar. So old Rajendra Nagar is an ecosystem. That is, ecosystem is what? See, the place in which an organism is living, right? It includes all biotic and non-biotic components of an environment, right? See, consisting of living beings and the physical environment, both interacting and exchanging materials between them. That is ecosystem, right? Example, a pond, right? We'll be discussing, there is nothing uh, technical in this. You will simply understand it. See, an ecosystem is functional unit of the environment. Okay. In fact, an environment is group of ecosystems. So environment is what? Nothing but, say your environment, right? Your environment, say you your environment is, see, when you go to playground, right? So playground is an ecosystem. Playground is an ecosystem, right? And you go to library, library is an ecosystem, right? Where different living and non-living things are there, right? And say if you go to your house is one ecosystem, that is functional unit, right? So all these are ecosystems, and these all the ecosystems, if you combine, that is your environment. Your environment is what? The group of ecosystems in which you are living, right? So ecosystem is basic fundamental unit where living and non-living things interacting in certain environment. Example, a pond, they say, see, environment is this one, this circle, and this is what combination of some terrestrial ecosystem and aquatic ecosystem is there. Say any animal, see, lion is living in this ecosystem environment, right? So lion can rely on aquatic ecosystem, right? Aquatic ecosystem, a pond has its own ecosystem, and grassland has its own ecosystem, right? So that is the basic fundamental structural and functional unit of biosphere, right? Biosphere is, if you take biosphere, earth ka biosphere is where living things are present, right? So that is, say, 5,000 meters above the sea level to 3,000 meters below the sea level, where temperatures aren't extreme, where we can see living organisms. So that is biosphere of earth, right? So structural and functional unit of biosphere consisting of living beings and physical environment, right? Both interacting and exchanging material between them. That is ecosystem, right? Then components of ecosystem. We have already discussed. See, components of ecosystem. सेम एनवायरमेंट का जो कंपोनेंट्स है वो भी कंपोनेंट्स इकोसिस्टम का भी वही कंपोनेंट्स है दैट इज इकोसिस्टम एनकम्पासेस बोथ लिविंग बायोटिक एंड नॉन लिविंग एबोयोटिक कंपोनेंट्स राइट so that is biotic components include plants have life, animals have life, microorganisms like cyanobacteria, plankton, right, or fungus, etc. Right, biotic components, anything which has life in an ecosystem. Say you are living in a village, right? So your ecosystem would be, right, all the like you are living in a house, right? Your house may be having plants, maybe having animals, maybe having microorganisms, etc. So that is the right. Then abiotic components is, abiotic is no life, non-living. So that is sunlight, rainfall, temperature, humidity, atmospheric pressure, gases like oxygen, CO2, nitrogen, and organic substances like proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, etc. All these are components of ecosystem. All these are components of ecosystem. Right. Now let's see. See, this is the question asked in UPSC paper 2015. Right. Which of the following is the best description of the term ecosystem? Right. So this is the PYQ. See, every PYQ we will be covering. Right. Covering it with proper explanation. See, इस question के लिए explanation नहीं है because this is very easy question and we have discussed ecosystem above only. Right. But all the rest of the questions there is proper explanation also. Right. Now let's see how to solve this question. Right. See, I will be discussing tricks to solve MCQs also in the classes. Right. So let's see. First, this is very easy question. अब इतना easy questions हम अभी expect नहीं कर सकते UPSC से. Right. We cannot expect because this is in 2015, 10 years back. Right. Which of the following best description of the term ecosystem? See, a community of organisms interacting with one another. Community of organisms interacting with one another. See, community of organisms. See, this is just dealing with biotic components of ecosystem, right? That is basically this is definition of population, right? Population or different biotic organisms interacting with one another. So community of organisms interacting with one another. This is not complete definition of ecosystem. Ecosystem में living, non-living and उसका environment, ecosystem, land, that is also has to be there, right? See, this is that part of earth which is inhabited by living organisms. This is definition of biosphere. By biosphere is what? Earth का जहां भी living organisms present होता है, that is definition of biosphere. So हमें पूछा ecosystem का, right? See, ecosystem is a community of organisms together with the environment in which they live. The community of organisms भी है and the environment in which they are living. So ecosystem है तो हमें कुछ ना कुछ जगह भी होना चाहिए, right? Then only it is called ecosystem, right? So this is the correct. Then the flora and fauna of the geographical area. Again, this is just biotic components, right? Flora and fauna ecom. भाई अब हमें ecosystem है तो जगह होना चाहिए, जैसे pond is an ecosystem. अब ये बोल रहा है, ठीक है, just take pond as an example. अब इधर देखो, ये बोल रहा है ecosystem is flora and fauna pond. No, भाई sunlight भी, water भी, वो सब भी included होंगे ecosystem में. So this is incorrect, right? So option C is the correct answer. This is very easy question. Now let's see the functions of ecosystem, right? Functions of ecosystem. So we'll slowly go into the important topics, right? See, functions of ecosystem. Functions is what does ecosystem do? Any ecosystem, say a pond, say a lake, or say a forest. Forest is an ecosystem, right? What are the functions they play? So they play majorly three functions, that is energy flow, right? Energy flow from one level to another level we will be discussing. Then nutrient cycling or biogeochemical cycles. Right, under this we will be studying about nitrogen cycle, carbon dioxide cycle, etc, etc, phosphorus cycle, etc. Right, these are the functions. ये काम करता है, pond भी है, lake or any ecosystem, they does these functions, and they also function as ecological succession or ecosystem development, that is movement from one level of the ecosystem to another level. So we will be studying these three under the functions of ecosystem. Right, so first let's study the energy flow. Right, energy flow is a function of ecosystem. Right, so let's study energy flow. See, energy flow, how it happens. See, in any ecosystem, energy flows from primary to secondary. So we have divided, say, so let's say energy. See, energy is very essential for any organism, right? So first let's take, we are getting energy from sunlight, right? See, without sunlight, life on earth is impossible, right? So all the energy we are getting it from sun, right? So we are getting energy from sun. Say this is the energy we are getting from sunlight, right? So, and sunlight, say we will be only using 10% of the energy, 10% of the energy, right? So that is the rule, only 10% will be transferred to the next level, right? So say, so plants are taking here producers, that means they are auto generating energy, right? See, here is green plants. So green plants, they take sunlight, right? They take sunlight and they grow, right? Without sunlight, green plants cannot grow, right? So they take 10% of the energy, right? They are green plants, and green plants are called autotrophs. Autotrophs are what? Auto means self-generating, self-generating, right? So they prepare their own food. So that's why they are called autotrophs. On the other hand, humans or other herbivorous carnivores, they are called heterotrophs. Heterotroph means they are dependent on others, right? So homo is self, hetero is others, right? So others dependent for energy, right? So autotrophs, plants or autotrophs or any organisms which are preparing their own food. See, humans are not autotrophs. हम plants पे, fruits पे, right, other animals पे depend करता है. So we are heterotrophs, we can't prepare our own food. On the other hand, plants are autotrophs, they prepare their own food by photosynthesis, right? We will be discussing that also. And energy transfer happens from producers. So plants, they take sun's energy and they become plants, and after that, then out of this 10% energy would be transferred, right? 10% energy would be transferred, that to primary consumers, that is herbivorous, say a deer, right? Herbivorous, right? They consume plants, right? And they get their energy, right? That is 10%. Then secondary consumers, say carnivorous, right? Carnivores, say fox, right? So fox, they eat herbivores, right? And they get their energy. And then there is tertiary consumers or the higher carnivores, say lion or tiger, right? So they also consume and they take 10% energy. So it is a rule that only 10%, that is efficiency is just 10% only, right? So let's read the thing, then we will have better understanding. See, energy flow is the flow of energy from producers to consumers. Producers are plants to consumers, that is herbivores, carnivores, etc, of subsequent trophic levels. So everything, see, this is trophic level. For our convenience, see, this is the first trophic level, this is the second trophic level, and this is the third trophic level, and this is the fourth trophic level. So energy flow is flow of energy from producers to consumers of subsequent trophic levels. So it is unidirectional. Unidirectional means always there will be flow of energy from producers to consumers. Always flows from lower, that is producer, to higher, that is herbivore, carnivore, trophic level. So it never flows in reverse direction. ऐसा reverse direction में क्योंकि they are not consuming, plants carnivores को consume नहीं कर रहा है, right? So this is always unidirectional. It never flows in the reverse direction, that is from carnivores to herbivores to producers, right? So energy flow always be in unidirectional. जो autotrophs है, they produce energy from sunlight, right? From them herbivores, from herbivores to carnivores, carnivores to higher carnivores, that will be the flow of energy. Then there is no loss of energy in the form of, sorry, there is loss of energy in the form of unusable heat at each trophic level. So this is the loss of energy is what, 90%. 90% loss of energy is there at every level, right? There is loss of energy in the form of unusable heat at each trophic level, so that the energy level decreases from first trophic level upwards. फर्स्ट ट्रॉपिक लेवल से जैसे जैसे ऊपर जाएंगे एनर्जी लेवल्स डिक्रीज होता जाएगा. जैसे इधर देखो, सी हियर इट इज 1 lakh J, here it is 10,000 J, right? Here it is 1000 J energy, right? Here it is just 10 J, right? Energy. So that is the loss of energy in the form of unusable heat that happens at every level. As a result, there is usually 4 to 5 trophic levels. 4 to 5 trophic levels only. Yes, here, and seldom more than 6, as beyond that very little energy is left to support any organism. See, beyond this, see, if there is organism which depends upon tertiary consumer, energy nahi bachega, right? There will be very less carnivores, right? If you are dependent on them, then your survival would not be possible. So that's why there is at max 6 trophic levels. Generally 4 to 5 trophic levels hota hai, seldom beyond 6, because very little energy is left to support an organism, right? So at the first trophic level, primary producers use solar energy to produce organic material through photosynthesis. So now let's understand photosynthesis kya hota hai. See, first level, see, plants are primary producers are what? Plants, right? Plants use solar energy to produce organic material. Plant material is organic material through photosynthesis. Now, what is photosynthesis? See, photosynthesis is, see, plants use CO2, carbon dioxide, ठीक है, plus water, H2O, ठीक है. कब? जब sunlight, ठीक है, when sunlight falls on the plants, right? So plants have a element that is chlorophyll, right? Chlorophyll. So by using sunlight and CO2 present in the atmosphere, right, plus water present inside the plants, they generate organic material, that is glucose, that is C6H12O6. So this is glucose, plus they release oxygen, right? So if we equate it, see, 6 elements of CO2 and 6 elements of water will give us glucose or carbohydrates, right, plus O2, that is oxygen, right? 6 elements of oxygen. So this is photosynthesis, right? So photosynthesis is when sunlight is falling on the plant in the presence of carbon dioxide and water. So plant is turning, so plant का जो material है, जो plant grow कर रहा है, that is nothing but glucose, and it releases oxygen into the atmosphere, right? So plants are taking CO2 and releasing oxygen, and they are making material that is glucose or carbohydrate, right? So that is the photosynthesis, right? Basic things also we will be covering. Then at a second trophic level, herbivores feed on plants to get their energy. Herbivores, they eat plants, they get energy. The metabolic processes of these animals, like breathing, food digestion, sustaining tissue development, maintaining blood circulation, etc., consume significant portion of this energy. जो 90% जो है, ठीक है, 90% एनर्जी जो वेस्ट हो रहा है, ठीक है, जो मतलब नेक्स्ट ट्रॉपिक लेवल में तो 10% ही जाएगा. सो द 90% रेस्ट 90% इट यूजेस फॉर इट सेल्फ, और द वेस्ट, भाई जो मान ले दे आर दे यूरिनेट, राइट, दे रिलीज वेस्ट, so that is also a waste, right? So that is the 90% energy which we cannot pass to the next trophic level, right? So that is the thing, right? Significant portion of energy. Then at the third trophic level, predators eat herbivores as a source of energy for survival and growth. So carnivores, they eat, right? Then large predators are still at the higher trophic level and feed on carnivores to obtain energy. As a result, food chains connect many plants and animal species one to another. So that is the energy flow. Energy flows from producers to consumers. Producers like plants, right? They are primary producers, right? They are also called primary producers because they produce directly from the sunlight. They are also called autotrophs, right? So, right now, let's see. See, the trophic level interaction involves three components, namely food chain, food web, and ecological pyramids. Right. So now we will be discussing. So the trophic level interactions. See, these interactions we will study through food chain, etc. Right. So slowly you will understand things. Right. So chalo, let's understand about food chain. Food chain. Right. See, food chain is how food is moving across the trophic levels, right? See, food chain, organisms that feed on one another form a food chain, right? Say, see, food chain is like, say, plants, right? Plants are eaten by herbivores, deer, and deer are eaten by lion. So this is a food chain, right? Food chain, basically what we are doing, we are moving from one trophic level, right? This is the first trophic level, and this is the second trophic level, and this is the third trophic level, right? That is food chain. Organisms that feed on one form a food chain, right? A food chain starts with producers, right? Here starting with producer, that is plants, right? Plants are autotrophs and they are producers, they produce their own energy, and ends with top carnivores. So ending with top carnivores. Okay. Each step in the food chain is called trophic level. Each step, see, this is one trophic level, and this is second trophic level, and this is third trophic level, right? The trophic level of an organism is the position it occupies in a food chain. Okay. So it is a, see, line ka position is third trophic level in this food chain, right? Okay. So in a food chain, the energy flow follows the 10% law. 10% law, that means this law suggests that only 10% of energy is transferred from one trophic level to another. So plants have, say 1000 as a energy, 1000 joules, right? So deer would be having 100 joules only, and a lion would be having 10 joules only. So that is energy transfer at max. So rest 90% would be wasted, right? जैसे मान ले humans है, right? Humans, we are defecating, we are sweating, right? We are releasing urine on regular basis, right? So we are consuming lots of energy, but we are just passing 10% of the energy to the next level, trophic level, right? अगर I was reading in a book, right, that is life 3.0, ठीक है, उसमें ये लिखा है कि if we could increase our stomach efficiency, right? Say, let's say now the efficiency of our stomach is 1, right? If we could make it more efficient, right? If we could make it, say, efficient by, say, some 1,000 times more efficient, so then we would be able to digest more food, right? And we will reduce less waste, right? So हम मान ले एक बार खाना खा लिया, ठीक है? If we could eat once, right? If we could eat once in our lifetime, that would be sufficient. There won't be any waste at all if our food, if our stomach is that much efficient. So that is like, say, we could only pass, like, our any animal system is not efficient enough, right? So there is generally 10% pass of energy to the next tropic levels, right? Not more than 10%. So then there is types of food chain, right? Again, very important, types of food chains. See, food chain, there are two types of food chain. That is, one is grazing food chain and other is detritus food chain, right? So in nature, there are two main types of food chains have been distinguished. That is grazing food chain and detritus food chain. So first, let's discuss about grazing food chain, right? So grazing food chain is, say, normal food chain we are seeing, right? Say normal food chain, say, food chain starts with plants or plant parts, okay? Followed by herbivores as primary consumer and are called grazing food chain. See, example is on land, say, grass है, so food chain which is starting with plants, ठीक है? And grass पे dependent है grasshopper, right? And then grasshopper को खाती है frog. See, here it is primary producer or autotrophs. Autotrophs, grass are autotrophs because they are directly making their own food from the sunlight. And here these are what? These are heterotrophs. ठीक है? All animals are heterotrophs, right? Frog is a heterotroph because we, and humans are also heterotrophs because we cannot make our own food, right? So only plants are autotrophs, right? So heterotrophs, and this is what? Herbivore, and frog is carnivore. And frog में dependent है, frog को खाती है snake is higher carnivore and snake को खाती है eagle, right? Here we are seeing first trophic level, second trophic level, third trophic level, fourth trophic level and fifth trophic level, right? So this is the grazing food chain. अगर water में देखा जाए, ठीक है? See, this is on land, we see grass. On water, so we have phytoplankton, right? Phytoplankton, zooplankton, we will be discussing comprehensively, but let's discuss briefly. Phytoplankton is what? Light. Phyto means light, right? Light, and plankton means plant material or जो भी. So basically this is जो water में जो खुद produce करता है, right? They are like plants only. They are like plants of waters, right? Like that we need to remember. So phytoplankton, then zooplankton are small micro animals. Zooplankton, zoo is movable, zoo, right? Animal. So small micro animals. So phytoplankton को खाती है zooplankton, and zooplankton को खाती है fish, and fish को खाती है pelican, right? So that is the grazing food chain in water. So there is food chain happening in land and water also. So anything which starts, right? Any food chain which starts with the plants, right? That is grazing food chain. Grazing, right? So buffaloes graze, right? So buffalo, so say grass, buffalo, and lion. Buffalo खाती है lion, right? So that is also food chain. Any food chain that starts with plant or plant material, right? And goes on with secondary consumer, tertiary consumer, etc. That is grazing food chain. Now let's see detritus food chain. See, food chain that starts with organic matter of dead and decaying plant and animal bodies, followed by detritivores. or decomposers as primary consumers is called detritus food chain. Again, very important. Detritus and detritivores, right? So we'll be discussing, see, food chain. See, normal in grazing food chain, what is happening? In grazing food chain, we are starting with plants, that is जो ऑटो जनरेट कर रहा है फूड को, राइट? प्लांट्स आर इन aquatic food chain of grazing food chain, we are starting with phytoplanktons. On the other hand, in grazing food chain, we are starting with the dead organic waste of decaying plant or animal bodies. That is called starts. See, say a dead leaf on land, we are starting with the dead leaf. Dead leaf are eaten by wood louse. Wood louse is what? Detrivorous or detrivores. Those who rely on dead leaves or dead animals are called as detrivores, right? So woodlice and woodlice are eaten by blackbird. Blackbird, woodlice are small insect, right? Insect like of thing. So that is eaten by. So that is the detritus food chain. On the other hand, same litter, right? That is organic waste or plant waste, right? Plant waste is eaten by earthworms, right? We know earthworms are detrivores, right? And earthworms are eaten by snakes, and snakes are eaten by eagle. So this is detrivorous, right? That is start with dead plants and leaves, followed by detrivores, which are depend on these dead. On the other hand, see, in water, mangrove leaves or dead leaves, right, जो नीचे गिर जाता है, and the detrivores, then microorganisms eat detrivores or detritus, or microorganisms are eaten by crab, and crabs are eaten by small fishes, and small fishes are eaten by big fishes. So that is the detritus food chain, right? One is grazing food chain, which starts with plants, and other is dead plants and dead animals, right? That is detritus food chain. And in aquatic ecosystem, the grazing food chain is a major conduit of energy flow. In aquatic, just say in oceans, right, in lakes, etc., grazing food chain is a major conduit of energy flow. As against this terrestrial ecosystem, a much larger fraction of energy flows to detritus food chain than through grazing food chain. So this point is very important. क्या बोल रहा है? In terrestrial ecosystem, जैसे in land we see energy flow happens more to detritus food chain. So that's why, so detritus food chain से energy flow is greater than grazing food chain. Grazing food chain in terrestrial ecosystems. Generally हम लोग क्या सोचते हैं? इंसान, human is part of grazing food chain, right? We rely on plants and we rely on other animals, right? So हम लोग को लगता है कि grazing food chain से ज्यादा हो रहे हैं, but detritus food chain से major energy flow is happening in terrestrial ecosystems. On the other hand, aquatic ecosystem से grazing food chain, जैसे phytoplankton, right? Phytoplankton में animals dependent, zooplankton से fishes से bigger fishes, right? On the other hand, in terrestrial ecosystems, so this is the point which can be asked in prelims. We need to keep in mind, right? So the two food chains are linked. The initial energy source for detritus food chain is the waste material and dead organic matter from the grazing food chain. दोनों interlinked है, ऐसा नहीं independently चलता है. So same initial food source, जैसे plants का dead, that is the detritus के लिए वो है, right? So that is the thing. So this is the detritus food chain and grazing food chain, right? So now let's see a question based on food chain, right? See, question is asked in UPSC paper 2013, that is with reference to food chains in ecosystems, which of the following kinds of organisms is or known as decomposer organisms? Decomposer organisms means which can decompose things. जैसे say we have eaten an apple, right? आधा खा के छोड़ दिया, ठीक है, बाकी को डिकम्पोज करेंगे. एप्पल ऐसा रूम में छोड़ दिया तो यू सी डिकम्पोज and apple after 2-3 days. So वो decompose क्या organisms कर रहा है, right? Which organisms are decomposing it, right? What are the decomposing following kinds of organisms is are known as decomposer organism or organisms, right? So that is, see, fungi and bacteria, they are decomposers, right? On the other hand, virus is not a decomposer. For that matter, virus is not an organism also, because virus are dormant life, खुद के कोई लाइफ नहीं है, राइट? बिकॉज दे कैनॉट रिप्रोड्यूस देमसेल्व्स. वायरस को ग्रो करने के लिए या किसी ना किसी और ऑर्गेनिज्म का चाहिए, राइट? किसी ना किसी लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म, सम लिविंग ऑर्गेनिज्म से वायरस, सी, जैसे कोविड वायरस इट कैन रिप्रोड्यूस इनसाइड ह्यूमन बॉडी, राइट? और दे नीड सम अदर सेल्स, some other living organisms, on them only they can reproduce, right? So that's why, so virus cannot be a decomposer organism, right? So option is fungi and bacteria can be decomposer. So let's understand, let's see the thing. See, decomposers are the biotic component of ecosystem which break down waste material and dead organisms. वेस्ट मटेरियल एंड डेड ऑर्गेनिजम्स को बायोटिक कंपोनेंट ब्रेक डाउन जो भी करते हैं, दो आर decomposers. So examples are earthworms. See, earthworms are decomposers because they are detritivores. So they rely on dead organisms को break down, they are decomposers, right? And dung beetles, right? And many species of fungi and bacteria, right? These all are decomposers. Fungi also they decompose, bacteria also they decompose, right? They feed on decaying organic matter and convert the matter into nitrogen and carbon dioxide. They convert. See, earthworm is best example. So earthworm, what it does is, say it is in a field, right? It is in a खेती में earthworm. So what earthworm does is it breaks down all the littery leaves, right? Littery leaves, and as a waste they release their fecus, and their fecus contains nitrogen and other carbon dioxide also they release, right? So this nitrogen will be used as fertilizing the land. So they decay organic matter, they break down dead or decaying organic matter into nitrogen and carbon dioxide. So fungi and bacteria are decomposers. They break down organic matter into simple inorganic substances. So fungi, bacteria, they break down, right? And virus represents dormant life. They, without life of other organisms, they cannot reproduce, right? That is dormant life. They have life, they are living organisms only, right? But they have dormant life. They are metabolically inactive. That means they cannot reproduce, they cannot multiply. See, one COVID virus cannot multiply in a room, normal room mein. If we keep one piece of COVID virus, it cannot reproduce itself. It cannot make 100 COVID viruses. To reproduce, it needs other living organisms. So as long as they are outside a host body, okay, they are not decomposers. See, they are not decomposers. They invade host cells and use their nucleus or DNA machinery to carry out their life processes. So this point is very important. Many questions are asked based on this. In science and tech, we will be discussing it, right? So virus, they need some other living cells to reproduce, right? They cannot reproduce themselves, right? So that is the point. So decomposers, fungi and bacteria are decomposers. Option B is the correct answer, right? Now let's see next question. See, this is question asked in UPSC paper 2014. Which of the following is a correct sequence of a food chain? See, food chain related question. So food chain as a topic is important. So food chain, we have grazing food chain and we have detritus food chain, right? So this is question based on grazing food chain, and grazing food chain of aquatic. right? So what we need to discuss, see, correct sequence of food chain. So diatoms, crustaceans, and herrings, right? So we need to know what are diatoms, what are crustaceans, and what are herrings, right? So then we can answer it. See here also, crustaceans, diatoms, herrings. Diatoms, sequence of food chain, right, from one trophic level to next trophic level. So first is phytoplankton. So question explanation. So phytoplankton are primary producers of the ocean. So phytoplankton are what? They are plants of ocean or aquatic or ecosystem, right? Phytoplankton are plants, right? So they are primary producers. Jaise in terrestrial we have plants, so phytoplankton are plants. They, that means they produce their own food from the sunlight, like the way plants on the land are producing their own food. Phytoplankton, so phytoplanktons are what? Majorly microscopic. Majority of the phytoplanktons are microscopic, and there are phytoplanktons, few phytoplanktons who are not microscopic also, right? So phytoplanktons are microscopic, so we cannot see with our naked eye, right? In fact, if we take out 1 liter of seawater, we can see with the microscope we can see millions of phytoplanktons, right? So they are microscopic in nature, phytoplanktons. And phytoplanktons, see, food chain of aquatic ecosystem is phytoplankton. Phytoplanktons are eaten by zooplankton. See, we will be discussing everything while we discuss aquatic ecosystem. Phytoplankton क्या है वो comprehensively discuss करेंगे, but here also we need basic knowledge. And zooplankton are eaten by crustaceans. Crustaceans and crustaceans are eaten by fish. And small fish are eaten by big fish like sharks and all, right? So this is the food chain of ocean ecosystem, right? So phytoplanktons are plants, they produce their own food, and they are primary producers. Primary producers means they are producing their own food, right? ठीक है, phytoplanktons. Then phytoplankton are eaten by zooplankton. अब zooplankton क्या है? They are also majorly microscopic animals. Microscopic animals, they rely on phytoplankton को खाती है zooplankton, microscopic animals. Then zooplanktons are eaten by crustaceans. अब crustaceans क्या है? Crustaceans are not fish, they are not fish. Crustaceans are animals like crabs, animals like lobsters, animals like shrimp. Okay, so that's what we have discussed. Crustaceans form a large group of arthropods which include crabs, lobsters, crayfish, shrimp, krill, and barnacles. So these are crustaceans. So crustaceans, they eat zooplankton, and crustaceans are eaten by fish. So crabs को fish खाती है, ठीक है? And some fish they eat zooplankton also, right? So that we will discuss in food web. And fish are eaten by big fish. So that is the aquatic food chain, right? Now see, diatoms are what? Diatoms are a type of phytoplankton. So diatoms are unicellular algae. So algae is what? Algae is green in color. So they produce their own food, right? They are primary producers. So diatoms are phytoplankton. So diatoms are first. Then other aspects of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are many species, right? So it includes diatoms, it includes coccolithopores, and it includes cyanobacteria, and it also includes dinoflagellates. See, all these things you don't need to remember at once. See, diatoms, we have another question we will be discussing there also, right? I will be showing you videos also, right? So I will make you remember these things over the course. Wait till the completion of course. In one topic we will be remembering these things, we will be understanding. जैसे phytoplankton जब टॉपिक डिस्कस करेंगे एक्वेटिक इकोसिस्टम्स, देन वी विल बी अगेन डिस्कसिंग दैट. सो इफ यू आर नॉट एबल टू रिमेंबर थिंग्स इन दिस क्लास, डोंट वरी, राइट. विद इन द कंप्लीट कोर्स तक मेरा काम ही यही होगा, आपको चीजें याद कराने का, राइट. सो that is the thing. So diatoms, so diatoms are phytoplanktons, so they come first, right. Then crustaceans, then herrings. Herrings are a fish and they eat crustaceans. So herrings, we need to remember, is herrings is a important kind of fish. It is present throughout the world, right. Red herring, right, many kinds of herrings are there, right. Herrings is very important fish. So that's why, so diatoms are phytoplankton, so they are first in chain, and then comes crustaceans, and then comes herrings. Herrings is a fish. So we know, if we know okay, herrings are a fish, then we know fish eat phytoplankton or crustaceans, right. Crustaceans also we know crab, shrimp and all, right. So basically from this question what we need to know is, so we need to know phytoplankton ka various aspects of phytoplankton, right. Then we can answer question. If we see, there is one more question on diatoms, right. So diatoms are important. So why diatoms is asked, you will realize in next question, right. And herrings are important fish, so that's why, so we need to know ki, what are crustaceans, we need to know diatoms, we need to know phytoplankton kya hai, we need to know zooplankton kya hai, right. We need to know all the things, right. So this is the, A is the correct sequence. So diatoms are primary producers, are part of phytoplankton, right. Crustaceans are, they eat, crustaceans also eat plants, right. Crustaceans also, mostly crustaceans rely on zooplankton, right. And fish eat crustaceans, so that is the food chain, right. ऐसा नहीं होगा diatoms पहले आएंगे, so food chain is this. Now let's see next question. अब देखो, see, if we have prepared, see, this is question asked in 2021 paper. If we have prepared this question properly, right, then we would have easily answered this question, right. So consider following kind of organisms, that is, see, copypods, cyanobacteria, diatoms and foraminifera. Foraminifera, which of the above are primary producers? Primary producers, so primary producers are what? They prepare their own food, through photosynthesis. ठीक है. Examples of primary producers are plants in terrestrial biosphere and phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are the plants of the ocean, right. Micro plants of the ocean, so they are primary producers. अब primary producers क्या है? We know diatoms are part of phytoplankton and cyanobacteria are part of phytoplankton. So either here we have discussed it, right. So let's see. What are primary phytoplankton? See, it is given here, right. See, diatoms, phytoplankton are primary producers in the ocean. It include diatoms and it also includes cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria are blue green algae. Algae are primary producers. So cyanobacteria, and cyanobacteria bhi hum extensively discuss karenge, we will be discussing it, right. So these two are primary producers. If we know this, right, so we can answer this question easily. So kind of organisms are primary producers, so we know cyanobacteria and diatoms are primary producers, right. So that is 2 and 3, option B is the correct answer, right. Now let's discuss each of the things comprehensively, right. Copypods क्या है, वो भी important है, because see, basically here is what UPSC here wants to know our knowledge, deep knowledge with respect to phytoplankton, zooplankton, crustaceans, etc etc, right. Marine organisms को हमें अच्छे से जानना है, that is the thing we need to know, right. Aquatic organisms जब देखेंगे, then we will be studying this. So now let's discuss cyanobacteria first. Cyanobacteria are also called blue-green algae. Blue-green algae, and algae are, see, if you go to a pond, so you see green patches, right? That is nothing but algae, right? So one kind of algae is cyanobacteria. Cyanobacteria is also an algae, right? So blue green algae, so this is in blue green color, right? So it is an algae, and algae, anything is green, it means it has chlorophyll. So chlorophyll is there, that means it can produce its own food, right? So algae can produce its own food. So cyanobacteria is a kind of algae, so it can produce its own food, right? So they are primary producers. See, are microscopic organisms found naturally in all types of water. See, if you take 1 liter of ocean water or pond water, you can, with microscope, if you see under microscope, you can see large number of cyanobacteria. ठीक है, जब वो इकट्ठा होके इतना कॉलोनीज टाइप बनाती है, that is the algae which is visible to our naked eye also, right? So microscopic organisms found naturally in all types of water. ठीक है, cyanobacteria are important primary producers and form part of phytoplankton. Phytoplankton are the aquatic organisms which can produce their own food, right? So cyanobacteria is phytoplankton, that we need to remember. Then diatoms. Okay, diatoms are also phytoplanktons. Diatoms are photosynthesizing algae. See, they are algae, right? Algae means algae is green in color, right? Which we can see in the ponds, right? And are found in almost every aquatic environment, including fresh and marine waters. Okay, so if you pick up 1 liter of water of a pond or a ocean, right, you can see under microscope, you can see diatoms, right? So diatoms are one of the major primary producers in the ocean, right? Responsible for 20% of the photosynthetically fixed CO2 on earth. So that's why they are important. So diatoms are found in 2021 paper and also found in 2014 paper, because they are one of the most important phytoplanktons, right? Most important microorganisms, microalgae, unicellular algae of the aquatic ecosystem. So that's why we need to know कि diatoms क्या है, कभी भी किसी भी ऑप्शन में आ सकता है, right? So diatoms responsible for 20% जो भी CO2 we are emitting on the earth, so they absorb, because these plants what do they do? Photosynthesis में क्या होता है? They take CO2 and water and convert them into oxygen and cellular or glucose, right? So that's why they are important. So it is important for us to protect diatoms environment के लिए. Then next is जो बाकी बचा हुआ है वो क्या है? They are copepods and foraminifera, right? So copepods are what? They are copepods. So copepods are a group of small crustaceans. Small crustaceans. So crustaceans are what? जो ocean present microorganisms or major organisms. So crustaceans में भी microorganisms भी है और बड़े organisms like shrimp are visible, right? Like crabs, right? So all these are from crustacean. Copepods are form of crustaceans found in nearly every freshwater and saltwater habitat. So copepods are micro crustaceans, right? So copepods are major secondary producers. That means they eat primary producers, right, on the world ocean, right? So now what I will do is, so I will be showing you a small video on copepods, right? See, I am incorporating videos to give you pictorial memory and to make you understand things better, right? So please watch that video of 30-40 seconds. You will get to know what are copepods properly, right? So Watch the video.
Did you know the ocean's tiniest creatures rule the food chain? Copepods are the most abundant animals on Earth. Believe it. These tiny crustaceans range from 0.2 to 10 millimeters long. They serve as a primary food source for many marine animals. From tiny fish to giant whales, copepods are essential. Copepods help transfer energy through the ocean's food chain. In some areas, there are over 1,000 copepods per liter of seawater. Despite their size, they play a huge role in marine ecosystems. These tiny giants maintain the balance of life in our oceans.
Okay. Now, have you seen the video? So copepods are micro animals, like small animals, right? Small animals which are part of crustaceans, right? Crustaceans which are present in aquatic thing, right? So they eat plankton. So that means copepods are not primary producers; they are secondary producers, or they eat phytoplankton, right? So on the other hand, next is foraminifera. Foraminifera are single-celled organisms that are found mostly in marine environment. Marine environments. So foraminiferas are heterotrophic organisms. Foraminifera are also nothing but a kind of zooplankton, right? Zooplankton or microscopic organisms, right? So single celled microscopic organisms, like single celled microscopic animals, right? They are not plants, right? They are not phytoplankton, they are part of zooplankton, right? So heterotrophs which consumes smaller organisms and organic matter, they rely on phytoplankton. So hence option 4 is also not correct. So answer is, so that means, so what we need to know, that is, see, these two are primary producers of aquatic ecosystem, and these two are secondary producers, right? Copepods and foraminifera, and all these things we need to know, these are important, right? Now let's see next question, right? Which of the following are detritivores? Are detritivores. So detritivores are what? Detritus food chain we have studied, right? So detritivores are, they eat detritus or dead organic 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 waste, right? It can be of plant or it can be of animal, right? That is, so detritivores. Detritivores kya kya? We know, see, this is question asked in 2021. We know earthworms, we have discussed earthworms are detritivores. They rely on dead matter, right? And other thing, see, we can say wood louse also we have discussed, that is wood lice. Wood lice is small insect. So these two. So if we know earthworm is detritivores, so we can eliminate this option, right? And we know, see, we will be studying each of these. See, jellyfish is jellyfish is not a fish, we'll be discussing it, right? And seahorse is what? Seahorse is a fish, right? See, again, in some years there is a question on seahorse also, right? Seahorse is a fish. If we know seahorse is a fish, so that cannot be detritivores. So seahorse, 4 we can eliminate, 4 we can eliminate. So this would be the answer. So if we just know about seahorse and a seahorse as a fish, and fish are not detritivores because fish eat zooplankton and phytoplankton or other fishes, right? So seahorses are not detritivores, so we can easily answer it. Now let's discuss about each of these species. Jellyfish, millipedes kya hai, that also we'll be discussing. So now first let's discuss detritivores kya hai. Detritivores are heterotrophs. Heterotrophs because they rely on dead organisms, right? Heterotrophs, they rely on other organisms for their own food, right? Humans are heterotrophs. Lion is a heterotroph, right? On the other hand, plants are autotrophs, right? That obtain nutrients by consuming detritus, right? Detritus is dead. Examples of detritivores are earthworms, blowflies, millipedes, maggots, and wood lice. Wood lice. These are examples of detritivores. Now let's see a video on blowflies or blowflies are normal, जो house flies, the flies which we see on daily basis, जो food पे आके वो करता है, they are also detrivores because they eat dead matter. They eat dead matter. So now let's see a video.
Flies love to feast on putrefying, decaying flesh with a side of dog poop. There's good reason to swat a fly off your food. Every time one lands on a new food source, it regurgitates a special digestive liquid to tenderize the meal and lick up the juice. That means bacteria from its last stop just landed in your potato salad. Flies can eat anything from filthy garbage to filet mignon. But their offspring may have even more voracious appetites. Maggots. Fly larvae look disgusting, but they act as nature's recyclers, breaking down dead animals. After just a few days of gorging, the maggots retreat into a pupa, the end stage of a life cycle that goes from egg to adult in as little as a week.
Right? You have watched a video on flies, right? How they are eating dead organisms, right? And flies के related maggots भी है. See, maggots are what? Larva of flies. जो flies बनते नहीं है, right? Before becoming flies, they are called maggots. Or maggots are small organisms, right? They also eat dead, right? See, I have watched a video in which a woman, she has a wound in her stomach. ठीक है, उसको हील करने के लिए, ठीक है, टू रिमूव डेड स्किन ऑफ दैट वुंड, ठीक है, डॉक्टर्स हैव यूज्ड मैगोट्स को रिलीज किया. ठीक है, मैगोट्स व्हाट दे डिड, दे वेंट and they eat away all the dead skin of the wound, right? So now they no need to operate, right? So the wound can heal better now. So maggots also you need to remember, right? So maggots and wood lice. So now let's watch a video on wood lice, right? Watch a video on wood lice so you will get clarity. So how wood lice rely on dead organisms.
Wood lice are very important to the environment because of what they eat. They are detritivores, which means that they clean up and eat dead leaves and plants. Leaves that have fallen are still full of goodness, and wood lice help this goodness to go back into the soil so that it doesn't go to waste, and instead helps to keep the ground healthy. If the soil on the ground is healthy, it helps new plants, flowers, and even food to grow. Wood lice may be little, but they're super cleaners.
Right? You have watched video. So wood lice, what they does? They eat plant material, right? And dead plant material, and they release fecus or nitrogen or other elements. So wood lice is also a thing. Now we have millipedes. So millipedes, and we have also centipedes. Right, millipedes versus centipedes. Right, so millipedes and centipedes. See, centipedes are what? Carnivores. Right, carnivores. So they eat other animals. On the other hand, millipedes are detrivores. Right, they eat dead organisms. Right, so and they are non-poisonous, and they are very poisonous, right? So millipedes and centipedes. So we have discussed centipedes in one of the classes. So now let's watch a video, right? So you will get clarity on what are millipedes and what are centipedes.
Millipedes were among the first arthropods to move up out of the water onto the land. They can have up to 750 legs, grow to lengths of 30 centimetres and live for as long as 7 years. And this body plan is so efficient that it's remained largely unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Their body is divided into segments, each with its own set of legs and internal organs. A heart runs the entire length of it, supplying each segment with oxygen. It eats decaying leaves and plants, just as its ancestors did over 400 million years ago. Millipedes are peaceful creatures, but they don't have the forest to themselves. There are other multi-segmented creatures here that have a very different way of life. Centipedes. They are meat eaters. Centipedes are closely related to millipedes, and they prey on other bugs. There are over 8,000 species of them, and they all have poisonous stings. This one lives in caves in India. Their powerful, independently moving legs make them much faster than millipedes. This is the one to be feared most. Meet Scolopendra.
So you have watched the video, right? That is David Attenborough video, right? So millipedes, he was holding a millipede in his hand, right? So that is millipedes are non-poisonous. On the other hand, centipedes are poisonous. They rely on other animals, right? They are carnivores. On the other hand, millipedes are detrivores, right? So now, we know, millipedes are detrivores. We know wood lice is a detrivore, and we know earthworms are detrivores. Well, earthworms are well known, so that's why I haven't put a video, right? We will discuss earthworms also in one of the classes. I have discussed content earthworm ka jo salient features hai, I have discussed towards the end of the course, right? And now let's discuss about jellyfish and seahorse, right? They are not detrivores. So seahorses. So let me erase it. Seahorses. Seahorses are small marine fish. Small marine fish. Seahorse is considered a secondary consumer. So they rely on phytoplankton and zooplankton. Right? They occupy middle position in their food chain. Middle position in their food chain. Seahorses do not have teeth. They suck in their food and swallow it whole. Right? So they eat microorganisms like zooplankton, right? Micro zooplankton they eat, or small animals like small crustaceans they can eat. So thus their prey needs to be small. So primarily seahorses feed on phytoplankton, small fish, and small crustaceans such as shrimp and copepods. Right? So now let's watch a video on seahorses. Right? So seahorses. So you have watched a video. So seahorses are what? They are fish. So one of the most fascinating things about seahorses is the male gives birth to members. Female he eggs form करती है, and after forming eggs, so female will transfer that eggs into male, right? And then male will take care of those eggs and grow those eggs and release females, right? Release children into the ocean. So that is a very unique and seahorse is also like horse like शक्ल है, बट ये फिश है, ठीक है, एक्वेटिक उसमें रहती है, स्मॉल फिश, राइट. सो दैट इज द सी हॉर्स, राइट. सी बाय वाचिंग वीडियोस यू कैन रिमेंबर थिंग्स, राइट. एंड सी हॉर्स इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ठीक है, यूपीएससी का प्राइमरी फोकस पे. वो भी पॉइंट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर दैट दे मेल गिव बर्थ टू मेंबर्स once 2000 children it can release, right. So then आता है jellyfish, right. So jellyfish are not fish, right. So this you need to remember. They are invertebrates or animals with no backbones, right. So jellyfish, they are what? Cnidarians. Cnidarians. Jellyfish are what? Cnidarians, right. So cnidarians. So chalo, you can watch video now. So watch a video on cnidarians, right. Then we will be discussing.
Cnidarians are animals that live in aquatic environments. Most cnidarians can be found in the ocean, but some also live in freshwater. Jellyfish are cnidarians with soft jelly-like bodies. They spend the early stages of their life cycle attached to the seafloor and are free swimming as adults. Jellyfish have tentacles that are used to catch prey. Corals and anemones are cnidarians that spend their lives attached to the ocean floor or other underwater surfaces. Some corals get the energy they need from algae living within their tissue. The algae makes food by photosynthesis and transfers the food they make to their host corals. In exchange for this generous supply of food, the corals provide the algae with a safe place to live. Sea anemones and some corals have a series of tentacles that are used to catch and consume small organisms floating by their anchored bodies. Most cnidarians reproduce sexually, whereby sex cells are released and fertilized in water. Some cnidarians are also able to reproduce asexually by budding. Cnidarians have radial symmetry. This means their bodies are arranged around a central point with more than one line of symmetry. A unique characteristic of cnidarians are stinging cells called cnidocytes. Cnidocytes contain a toxin and are used to stun and capture prey. They are also used for defense against predators. Some cnidarians, like the box jellyfish, produce toxins that are harmful to people.
Right. So you have watched a video on cnidarians. So cnidarians are what? Cnidarians, they have particular cells, right? Particular cells are there, right? So that's why they are called cnidarians, right? So cnidarians, they are not fish, right? Example, jellyfish is a cnidarian and corals are cnidarians and sea anili, the things you watched in a video like ऐसा है, ठीक है, that is also a cnidarian, right? Corals are also a cnidarians, right? Jellyfish is a cnidarian, so jellyfish is not a fish, right? So they are invertebrate or animals with no backbones, so they lack brain, heart and skeleton. So they don't have brain, they don't have heart and they don't have skeleton. However, some jellyfish have evolved remarkable adaptations like eyes, right? Bioluminescence, right? They are secondary consumers like fish. So they dine on shrimp, crabs, fish, and tiny plants, right? So you see jellyfish, they eat other small fishes. They eat shrimps, they eat crabs. So they are not detritivores, right? So hence option C is the correct answer, right? So we have learned about jellyfish, we have learned about seahorses, we have learned about cnidarians. We will be discussing about cnidarians in future also, right? Then we have discussed about millipedes, right? All these things, right? So these things, so we are trying to cover things in a comprehensive way, right? So that is the 2021 question. So now let's see next. See, this is question asked in CSAT UPSC paper 2016, right? So viruses can infect. See, already we have discussed about viruses. See, viruses can infect what? Viruses can infect bacteria, Viruses can infect fungi. Viruses can infect plants. Viruses can infect humans also. Viruses can infect lions also. Right? Viruses can infect anything which is living. Right? It just needs other living beings cells. Right? In those cells, they can reproduce. So bacteria are also living organisms. Fungi are also living organisms. Right? So plants are also living organisms. So virus can infect any living organisms. Right? It can reproduce on any living organism. So 1, 2, 3 are correct answers. So let's discuss it. See, viruses can infect almost any kind of host that has living cells. Right? So living cells here, so viruses can infect. Because there are lakhs and crores of viruses. Right? So virus can infect almost any kind of host that has living cells. So animals, plants, fungi, and bacteria, etc., can get infected by a virus. In fact, protozoa, right? Bacteria, fungi, mushroom, anything. If you have a living cell, virus can attack you. Humans ko bhi it can attack because we have living cells, right? So virus can replicate only inside the living cells of an organism. Right? Viruses infect all types of life forms. Right? So bacteriophage is a virus that infects and replicates within a bacteria. Right? बैक्टीरिया को जो अटैक करती है उनको बैक्टीरियोफेज वायरसेस बोलते हैं. राइट? माइकोवायरसेस आर वायरसेस दैट इन्फेक्ट फंगाई. फंगाई को जो वायरसेस इन्फेक्ट करती है उनको माइकोवायरसेस बोलते हैं. एंड प्लांट्स को वी नो मेनी प्लांट डिसीजेस. राइट? वायरस कॉजिंग प्लांट डिसीजेस, जो खेतों में वायरस की वजह से डिसीजेस आता है. सो वी नो, सो वायरस कैन इन्फेक्ट all the three. Right? So virus, we will be discussing virus comprehensively in science and tech course. Right? Then you will get clarity. So here also we are discussing. Right? Now let's see next, that is food web. Right? Food web. Right? So food web, see, till now what we are seeing is food chain. Right? In food chain we are seeing कि by plants है, ठीक है, plants are eaten by deer and deer are eaten by, say, lion. But in reality, plants, humans also eat plants, right? Or insects also eat plants, right? Or anything can eat plants. And deer can be eaten by fox, and fox can be eaten by lion, right? So deer can be eaten by tiger, right? So, and deer can be so in reality, right? In real world, there is no food chain. In real world, there is food web, right? Food web like of organisms. See, like this. Let's see this. This is food web, right? So food web. So there is grass. So grass is eaten by grasshopper, or grass is eaten by mouse. Grass is eaten by rabbit. Now rabbit can be eaten by fox, right? And mouse can be eaten by fox, or mouse can be eaten by hawk also. Mouse can be eaten by owl also. So see, grasshopper can be eaten by frog, right? Grasshopper can be eaten by bird, right? Bird can be eaten by snake, right? Snake can be eaten by, or even hawk can directly eat snake. That is also another food web. So in reality, there is no single chain, right? In reality, there is a web, right? So that is food web. So simple concept. Now let's read the content. You will easily understand, right? So see, food chain. A food chain represents only one part of the food or energy flow through an ecosystem, right? And implies a simple, isolated relationship which seldom occurs in the ecosystem, right? An ecosystem may consist of several interrelated food chains, right? More typically, the same food resource is part of more than one chain, especially when that resource is at the lower trophic levels. At the lower trophic levels, right? So a food web represents all the possible paths of energy flow in an ecosystem, whereas food chain traces only one pathway of the food, right? So if any of the intermediate food chain is removed, the succeeding links the succeeding links of the chain will be affected largely. The food web provides more than one alternative for food to most of the organisms in an ecosystem and therefore increases their chance of survival. In reality, there are no food chains, there are food webs, right? So that is the food web concept. Easy. Now let's see. I think this topic we will be discussing in the next class, right?